Hi, and welcome to the Fancy Comma YouTube today. I'm excited to be joined by Paul Naphtali, founder of GenoWrite, a global life sciences communications agency. Paul brings with him years of writing and research experience, holding a Master of Science in Biology at McMaster University and winning several awards for science communication, such as the 3-minute Thesis People's Choice Award. Paul also covers the latest life sciences trends by conducting interviews and attending conferences as a media partner. When he's not working, he enjoys playing the piano and violin, exercising with soccer and table tennis, and writing stories. It's great to finally meet you in person, well, virtually in person. And you contributed to an article we did on the Fancy Comma blog about mastering out of your PhD program that a lot of people are really interested in. I know you are very busy in the marketing world. So you left your graduate program to do this, to become a writer, right? So what was that like to make a conscious decision to leave science to do writing? What were the reasons that led you to choose marketing as a path?
During the pandemic, I had just gotten some interesting findings from the work I was doing, but we didn't have the funding to get it through to the end. Around that time, I was thinking like, well, what else could I do that's financially viable, but still something I love? And those two questions combined accelerated my effort to change career path. The biggest factor, I would say, in me transitioning out and just thinking to myself, well, I've got nothing to lose with my PhD, so why not just jump right into this whole new world and just, gain much more.
I I love that you took that leap of faith. I think that's amazing. You do a lot of networking. How do you network? I noticed you wrote a post on LinkedIn about reaching out to people, and I thought that was really interesting because it's very hard to reach out to people in some ways because they never write back, or you get rejections, but you make it a habit to reach out to people. So how do you network, and how has that helped you?
I think the first rule of thumb is something that my mentor wisely told me, and that if you don't like rejection, get out of sales, because rejection is a normal part of the sales process. And people will say no for all kinds of reasons. Like people can say no because they don't have the budget. Other people may have decided not that they don't need it right now, their services. Rejection is completely normal, and for every like 10 rejections, you'll probably get at least one or two who are interested at some point. That's the first rule. The second rule is, I would say, is like we say this to a lot of biotech companies too. Like as I consult with companies, like you may have the best product in the world, but if people don't feel like they need your product, they're not going to go with you even if you have the superior product. So you have to think about how that will solve their problems, because they could easily just say to themselves, I'm going to do it in house, or I found another contractor for really cheap, or something else. But but maybe they have another problem that they're dealing with. Maybe the person they're working with isn't very helpful, or maybe they're so overwhelmed with their current projects that they can't write. Right? Like you have to start thinking about all these problems and how your writing work uniquely solves their problem. So I would say that's step two. And then step three is, well, developing the pitch, right? Like you have to really think about what how you're going to, connect with whoever you're talking to about what services you're offering and how it solves their problems. When I make my pitch, I say what I do, but I also reframe it and say, well, what's your problem? Or what do you see is happening in the next little bit? I would just highly recommend people consider that when they're doing their marketing. In terms of like platforms, just go experiment. Like go on LinkedIn, go on other social media. Like I quit X because it wasn't working for me. Like so I decided, well, why not just try different platforms? So I tried Blue Sky now, right? Just experiment and see what works and doesn't work, and just reach out to someone. Even if you get rejected, at least you tried.
That's good advice. And I just don't feel like science marketing is the same as it was pre-chat GPT, like at all. I wonder what you feel about that.
That's a good question, honestly, because I've I've seen companies begin to use AI already, and it's everywhere. Like, quite frankly, writing with AI ruins the personal voice you need to be a successful marketer. As I read more content, it's actually easier for me to tell if someone's used AI or not. You start noticing that the AI writes in a very similar way across every single platform. And when that happens, you lose whatever distinguishes you because people interact with people. They don't interact with robots. A lot of AI articles I've read just sound really bland. They sound really dry and they sound really robotic. And all those things makes marketing a failure because you're not distinguishing yourself from everyone else. And you lose the personal interaction and the meeting of needs that a company may have. So I would say while AI is on the rise in terms of usage, I don't know if it's going to get the results that people hope.
So, why do you do what you do?
I just want to make sure that people talk about science accurately, but can also do so in engaging ways. I really enjoy helping people tell stories or who are struggling to write in a way that connects with their audiences. And there is so much struggle going on that front because people just don't know how to write. Like a lot of people know how to have the ideas in their head, but they only write in certain styles and they don't see that there's so many ways you could say the same thing. For me, the beauty of writing is that you can unlock so many possibilities in personalizing the way you write to essentially be able to connect. There's unlimited possibilities, unlimited stories to tell. So I would say that's why I do what I do. And to do it honestly and to change the world through that approach is something that really excites me.
That's cool. So, how have you changed the world recently? Before I ask you how you changed the world recently, I just want to say that I just edited a press release the other day, and then it was read by the people at the White House to do an event with the organization I was working with. I thought that was really amazing. So, now I ask you, you're based in Canada, but how have you changed the world through your marketing activities recently?
I think the biggest one I could think of is like with the clients I'm working with, right? I would say there was one client that I was working with on a case study, and this was for a startup company that was developing a microbiome kit in Norway. When I helped write the case study for my clients, they were able to build momentum to opening up shop in across Norway. So for me, that was the most exciting part, just to see the tangible results of my writing and see how it led to increased sales and a successful opening in Norway. That was for me like the most tangible positive result that I got. And but a lot of times the results don't come right away. It requires constant marketing and constant projection to the world.
Congratulations on the opening of the Norway place. I've been to Norway and I love Norway, but also I wanted to say that I think we really undervalue writing as a skill. Communication really does a lot. Like you said, it helped open a company in Norway. For me, I helped people gain, I guess, access to a meeting at the White House thanks to just communication. I wish that people valued communication more, especially in the sciences where communication is like we don't think of it. In academia we write a lot, but we I felt like I rarely introspected on my writing. I did a lot of it and I really enjoyed it. I don't know how you feel about it. I stressed out about it way too much. So, do you train scientists in any way, or are you plugged back into academia? Or how do you feel about the transfer of skills, the value of writing in science, skills transfer there? I don't think that was it.
So so it sounds like there are three parts to the question. So I caught the other two. So I think it was about mentoring other writers and whether I'm still connected with academia. But what was the first part of the question? Because I thought that was really interesting.
I think the first part was the undervaluing of writing in science.
Writing is underrated as a skill, and it's not something that is unique to writing. Now, as to how to address that in writing itself, that's why I'm mentoring other people on how to write. So I mentor people in academia who are academics or former academics, and I show them that writing is still a big problem. Like, a lot of people would have like maybe underdeveloped websites, or they don't have any like content that just speaks to their smarts or their expertise, more like it. And that like raises a lot of red flags for companies or investors who want to look at a company, because they're like, well, how do we know you're the smart ones in this space? Or how do we know your data actually says what does what it says it does? And so, in order to get people to understand the value of writing, that's where I mentor students and teach them how to raise that awareness in other people. And it begins by seeking to understand the other person first. So, in fact, I was reading a great book on Mahan Khalsa, which I think, let me fetch it for you actually. And it's a great book. It's called Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play, Transforming the Buyer-Seller Relationship. And when I bought this book, I noticed that a lot of people in sales fall into this similar problem. And that's something Mahan covers in his book. It taught me to be able to connect other people's problems and help them see um, that their problems could very well be solved by the service that was being provided, but it took knowing what the client's problems were. So it's like I said at the very beginning, you can pitch your services all you want, but if the person doesn't see it as a need, they're not going to connect no matter how good your product is. And that's not just something I see in writing, that's something I see in every industry. And so when I mentor other students, I tell them to buy this book. And seriously, like, Mahan also has free resources on YouTube that I found extremely helpful, and I highly recommend it for people because it addresses all three questions that you've got. Because people in academia are thinking, "Oh, I'm the only one who's got the big problem, and my research is the biggest thing because I have to keep thinking about it and get that research result out." But if other people don't understand the work you're doing, it doesn't matter. So being able to talk about your work in relation to other people's problems, I would say is key to making sure that people understand what you're doing.
I would say clarity of writing is clarity of thought. So, like, if you can explain something, you understand it well. You can explain it to others, then you can not only understand it well, but help others understand it so that you can maybe get more people to work on it or get funders, stuff like that. So, I think that's really valuable insight. And I think the sad part is that there's very few of us in the intersection of marketing, especially I would say writing in science, but also communication in science, as well as marketing in science. There's very few people that I know that are in science marketing compared to like all the people in science because PhD programs are very structured. There's a set number of people that's funded by the government. You can't say the same about science marketers. Like most of us learned our skills on the fly. I didn't even know I was a marketer when I started being a marketer. So, yeah. So, what advice do you have for others that have a science background that are looking to get into marketing?
I say the first thing they need to do is to find other marketers who have already been in this field for quite some time to mentor them and to just give them information about what it's like to be a marketer. Because you could read all the textbooks you want about marketing or attend like an MBA and like, do an MBA, but the best way to get into marketing is to get the experience to do it. And I would say find people in LinkedIn or in other social media platforms who have been veterans at marketing for a long time and just pick at their brains, learn about how they got into marketing, what made them successful, and what insights you could learn from them. For me, I started out with a mentor, a friend of mine, and he's been in the marketing sales business for over 2 decades. And a lot, even though he's in the cutting tools industry, his advice was extremely applicable to me as well, because a lot of the stuff you do sales there also applies here. Because at the end of the day, you're selling a product, you're selling a service, and you're trying to get people to see the value of the service and connect with it. And so I started with him. There are other people that I can recommend as well. Like I already recommended Mahan Khalsa's book, so I highly recommend people go get it, because I know there's a lot of writers think it's just about selling their services and just what we do, but it's a lot more than that. And he transformed the way I thought about sales. I also would highly recommend, like, if you want to be specifically a writer, find other writers in the space as well. Because oftentimes I've noticed, like, there'll be writers who will not only teach you how to get into the industry yourself, but they could also give you a job or two if they're overworked and they need support for any reason. So you could be right there on the doorstep waiting to get some experience, and another writer could give you a shot. So I would say, um, definitely, I think the biggest advice for people to get started is to seek out people and just reach out to them. People aren't going to say no if you're showing interest in getting to know them more. They're not going to say no. They love talking about themselves, and me included. So reach out and just be yourself. Don't be spammy. That's the other thing, though. Don't be spammy, but be yourself professionally. Reach out, and you'll come across people who'll be more than happy to tell you about their experiences and how you could get into the industry.
That's a lot of really good advice. Sales is such an important part of copywriting, and it's not something we learn in science, because in science we're taught that our research speaks for itself. We don't learn specific tactics to like sell ourselves or put ourselves out there, because that's seen as being pushy and people don't want to do it. But actually, sales mindset, I should say, is actually really important for people in marketing, because marketing is all about selling things to people. And no, it's not a sleazy type of thing. It's like, here's a bunch of reasons why you should buy this thing. Or maybe you don't even know you need this, but here's some reasons, like learn about um, this specific thing. What am I trying to say? The sales mindset is really important. I need to learn more about sales myself, learning the different ways to sell something, because that is really an art. So yeah, and I think especially in the sciences, we sort of have this dichotomy of like science versus like marketing, and that we really have to start thinking about marketing as being inclusive of science, science products, science services. I'm so grateful for this conversation. And do you have any like final thoughts or anything cool happening that you want to promote on our channel? Anything?
Well, I think the biggest thing I'm excited about is I have made several partnerships with organizations who to expand our marketing abilities. So for one, I partnered with the Emerging Creatives of Science to have now be able to access a team of visual artists should any of our clients ever need any artwork done on top of the copywriting that we're supplying for them. Melissa Papas has been a great person to work with. She's been very on the ball when it comes to, touting her team of visual artists. Like their artists are extremely talented. Like I would really highly encourage you to check them out, because like a whole slew of nonprofit government bodies and other organizations have worked with them in the past. And they also do beautiful magazine covers for Cell, Nature, and other academic journals. So I'm really excited about the partnership, and I'm still seeking opportunities to integrate them into the biotech ecosystem, and just, encouraging biotech companies to check out their amazing artwork. So I love to shout them out. Another person I love to shout out is my personal friend and also person who's worked on my logo, which is Michaela Cruzinga. Like she just started out as a freelancer a few months ago, but she already created the logo for GenoWrite. I'm really excited to go all in into our consultancy work that we do alongside the copywriting, and perhaps even learning how to help you track how well your marketing metrics are doing, and just be able to even to hone in on lead generation and just creating partnerships in the long run through strong online copywriting and content marketing. If you want to check out all those future updates, follow us at GenoWrite on LinkedIn, and you could also find us now on Blue Sky. So we're going to be going all in on Blue Sky, LinkedIn, and similar media platforms.
Cool. You always have something interesting happening and coming up. And thank you so much for chatting with me and for sharing your insights about science and marketing and all that good stuff. I think our viewers will really love this interview. So thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thank you too for having me, Shiva.